So, good afternoon, everybody.
Okay.
So, I am Mike Boardwell. My online alter ego is Cinephile Mike. I'm a freelance film critic and journalist, and I'm here excited to moderate the panel for the Directors Roundtable, Cutting Through the Noise. So, gentlemen, if you could just introduce yourselves and your films.
Hi, my name is Aaron Silverstein. I'm the writer-director of the Infinite Husk, which played last night.
I'm Mike Jackson. I directed Time Helmet, which is playing tonight. One of my producers, Lori Watt, is here wearing one of our Time Helmets. I'm also a longtime Emmy-nominated film editor and visual effects artist, so I've seen a lot of the film industry from different angles.
So, I'm going to just jump right in and think about that subtitle of the panel. When you, as a filmmaker, hear that phrase, cutting through the noise, what does that mean for you as an indie sci-fi filmmaker?
How much I am challenged by it. In the world of social media and all that, I'm not adept. And honestly, like, it is the biggest challenge, certainly, that I thought it was hard making the movie with like a limited budget and no big studio support or anything like that. But trying to get it out into the world and get it noticed has been a much bigger challenge.
I would absolutely agree. I'm sure everyone knows this experience. You know, something used to be one way, which is, you could just focus on maybe just the editing or maybe just the filmmaking portion of it. But today's day and age, the cutting through the noise means you're your own marketing team and you're your own PR and package and delivery. And so cutting through the noise to me means accepting that that's what it is, because otherwise you're shouting at the clouds and you want it to be different, but it's not how the world works. So you accept it if you want to play ball, and you do your best.
So, what is it about the sci-fi genre? Why sci-fi? Is that the one that has the stories that you want to tell? It's a big umbrella.
I
No, go ahead.
I don't know how young I was when I fell in love with science fiction. It was so early. I remember watching old reruns of the original Star Trek as they're my oldest memories. It's always spoken to me. I don't know why. It's deep in my core. And yeah, certainly making genre films was always what I wanted to do in film. And when I set out to finally make my first feature, I loved comedy and I loved sci-fi. I was like, I'm going to make a sci-fi comedy. But yeah, it's experiencing those worlds. Sci-fi, not only is it always just fun on an imagination level, and I think the original Star Trek really encapsulated it. It can investigate real world issues and problems and challenges and things through a different lens. The original Star Trek was able to address racism and all kinds of political issues and things in ways that you couldn't do in normal television. And yeah, so not only is it fun storytelling, but there's a depth to it all as well if you decide to pursue that. And yeah, I find that very rich.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's no, I think that's the answer, though, right? Like, I don't know how everyone else feels, but I agree with you. Where there's a subgenres within sci-fi, and sort of as the genres get higher, I mean, like in terms of concept, it's like harder to connect with emotionally. And something about science fiction, the science part to me is it almost makes it brings a groundedness to it. Even though science can talk about, we can talk about wormholes and other worlds, but there's a part of it that goes, but maybe this is real. And that's the thing that sort of connects me, I think a lot of people, to science fiction is I don't have to suspend all disbelief. I can allow myself to believe that maybe this could happen. Maybe this could be true. And even if you have no clue, even if it's set in the year 4263, part of you wants to go, well, maybe that could happen, though. Maybe the future will be like that. And that's what draws us to science fiction, I think. And gives us the ability then to, again, investigate the future, the past, the now, and politics and economics and all these things. And so that's what's inherent in the genre that drew me to it, that draws me to it, is me going, but maybe this isn't crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's funny. Yeah, there's a, particularly like when I think about, to go back to Star Trek again, like there is a hopefulness baked in of, this is a world we could build. This is a world we could live in. And yeah, that's really, yeah, it's nice to have something that can give hope for the future.
Right. I agree. As cheesy as it sounds, we all still want that. I'll go toe to toe with any cynic in here and go like, who's more cynical? But then you can't look at anything that's science fiction and not feel just a pinch, right? A pinch of like of hope. You know,
Yeah.
maybe we will be teleported from here to over there. You know, like that's the beauty of the genre and all the various subgenres.
And it's probably all coming a lot sooner than we would maybe like it to.
I don't know. Where's my jetpack? I've been waiting a lot of years for that jetpack I was
I
promised.
think all of us were promised hoverboards.
I-
That's what we were promised a long time ago, and we're still walking around without the hoverboards, the real hoverboards.
But then on the flip side, we've got the most powerful computers in the world sitting in our pockets and access to all of human knowledge, if you can dig it out from the claws of the AI anyway.
So in many ways, the Jetsons was prophetic, and yet we're still waiting on a few of those things.
That's been, to me, over my lifetime, one of the most interesting things, seeing like what sci-fi predictions have come true and which have so not. And then all the things that no one saw coming. And yeah, just the power of our data management machines and what that's done. No one ever really speculated about.
So when we think about sci-fi as a genre and when we get people to go see these films, what is something in both of your minds that you feel audiences maybe misunderstand about independent sci-fi films?
I suppose it's related to the first question about like what draws you to sci-fi is, I think if you're not inherently or learned to appreciate the genre, I think outside of it you think it's laser beams and aliens all the time, and I think people assume with indie sci-fi that there's going to be a lack of depth, maybe. That at least folks that I've spoken to, they're like, oh, it's a sci-fi film, so it's like there's an alien, and in my film the answer is yes, there is. But then they go, it sort of stops there, right? There's going to be or a lightsaber or something, but you're not going to try to challenge me in a way that feels human. I think folks assume it's like you're going to flex the like 2 or 3 math books that you like flip through, or the podcast you listen to, there's going to be some lasers and but they don't expect to be challenged maybe on a human level, on an emotional level. I don't know if folks outside of the indie sci-fi space expect to see something that has heart. Again, I think they think it's going to have just head, you know, just brain. And that's something that I think a lot of indie sci-fi filmmakers can be up against as far as like a challenge, is being like, well, you know, you might cry too. You might remember your long gone dog too. You might think about your parents as well. And I think that's something that folks bring to like the presumptions they bring to the genre that I think we enjoy trying to subvert.
Yeah, very good answer. I don't think I really have much to add to that. I think from a very different angle, I'm not sure the average civilian knows how hard it is to actually get any movie made. And I mean, whether you do it an independent route, if you're trying to do it through Hollywood, it's one kind of incredibly difficult. And if you're doing it on your own, it's a different kind of incredibly difficult. But like the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that has to go into the average indie sci-fi movie, I think is, in a lot of ways, much more than something that's gone through the traditional production routes.
And when you think about, breaking into this field, how do you make an indie sci-fi film like Infinite Husk, like Time Helmet, feel essential? And I believe these films are essential, right? I'm actually a bigger fan of indie films more often than I am the major blockbuster ones. But how do you go about making these essential in a landscape dominated by like the big ones, by like Dune or Star Wars?
If you know, please let me know. Breaking through that noise, it's really, really hard. I mean, we're now, like, I guess, yeah, we've been getting into the festival run like that. Sorry, I'm going to restart there. I'm kind of tripping over my own tongue. A lot of the systems are shifting so much, and yeah, as social media has risen and it's become more and more dominant, that's a big, big factor. But it used to just be make your movie, get it into festivals, because if it's any good, it'll get into festivals, and that will build buzz, and that will get your audience going, and boom, you're off to a good start. And certainly this year in particular, like the festival circuit's gotten really, really tough. It's much harder to get into festivals than it was even a few years ago. It's harder to get noticed. But that's the thing, like, it is all about getting noticed, getting traction. We're just finally starting to get our first reviews for Time Helmet out there, and that hopefully will start moving the needle. But that's the big battle that we're in right this second, getting the world to know. If you get to watch our movie tonight, Time Helmets, but like, post about it. Find our trailer on YouTube and put a comment. We've got surprisingly few views on our trailer because the algorithm isn't spreading it around. Why isn't it spreading around? Because people aren't commenting on it. And this was something that I only recently discovered. It's not enough to watch a video. It's not enough to like it. If people aren't commenting on it, YouTube won't show it to anybody else.
Yep.
So, like, please, 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 any film that you like from this festival, find us on social media, follow us, comment, spread the links around. We need it. We desperately need it, because it's the only way we'll get, if we get noticed enough, then we can get a good distributor, and we can get it in front of more eyeballs and share our films with the world. Rant, rant, rant. Please help.
That's a great response, and selfishly, I'm going to take the conversation in a different direction and answer this in a different way by sort of asking you a question, and maybe of the audience. So you asked, how do you make these films feel or be essential, I guess, to sci-fi? And one thing that I believe, like, I can't push this belief on anyone else, but I believe you can go in making something with all kinds of reasons, motivations. But if you're looking to make something essential, which I don't think is inherently bad, I think you'll have a lot of people who make things and go, you should just make it for the love of it or that. And I don't know why we attack wanting to make something good, like definitively good, or make something that's powerful, or make something that is essential. I don't know why we demonize that and go like, oh, you're not doing it with the pure heart. And part of making something essential, if you're trying, is I do think you have to toe the line between, paying homage and trying to do something different. And by doing that, I think it's a basic equation that's really hard to solve, which is looking at what's happened before and seeing what you like, what you can take, what you can use, what you can be inspired by, but then also seeing it and going, well, that's been done before, I'll try something different. And so I'm curious with your film, where there are moments, because that's something I went in with this film trying, as much hubris as that sounds like I have, which is like, I'm going to try to do something different, knowing damn well there's nothing new under the sun, but you try. And I'm curious if, Walt, making your film in an attempt to make it essential, you were like, well, these other films did it this way, I'm going to do mine this way, though, and the essentialness, the essential quality comes in the fact that it's the only one that's doing that, or the only one's trying to do it that way, because no one can do it like you. Even if you try to copy, it's going to be yours inherently.
Yeah.
So were there moments where you were like, my essential quality comes from me doing it this way and paving my own road, taking my own path?
Well, it's funny because they're all different ways to look at it, and they're all kind of valid, and I think we all internalize lots of the different angles of it. Certainly for me, like, at a basic level, I just set out to make a movie that I would want to watch. And I think most of us in our guts, that's the core that's going on. And like writing the script, it's like, this would make me laugh. I would love to see my friend Peter New perform this ridiculous scenario, which he then went and did. But you definitely, you want to have hooks, because you do also you've got to look at like, what can we market, and what are the sound bites that are going to get audiences to notice it. And yeah, certainly for me, so that essentially went into the mechanic for our time helmet. Because I was like, okay, I need to make a low budget sci-fi movie. What are the things that I could do that aren't going to cost an arm and a leg and take 8 million visual effects shots? Only 500.
I was gonna say like 7 million.
And I love Primer. I don't know how many people have seen that.
20 times.
Oh man, so good, so good. And yeah, they came up with a time travel mechanic that was probably the most scientifically plausible approach anyone's ever committed to film. And yeah, so, I mean, and so that was kind of a nice inspiration of, there are things that have not been done. And I have never seen a sci-fi. There have been short stories and novels and stuff, but I've never seen the mechanic of moving your mind, not your body. And so I was like, hey, that we could make a helmet, put it on, and like it transfers your consciousness from the future into your body now. It's like, oh, I could do a lot of shenanigans with something like that. What if he's got a second helmet and the next door neighbor grows up to be a time cop? It's like, oh, that could work. So the her from the future comes to fight him from the future, but they're fighting him now. And so yeah, it was a hook that I've never seen on film before that I could then have be the thing.
I love that answer. That's the audaciousness that creates something essential, right? Is whether if you're lying to yourself or it's completely true. You're like, I've never seen someone else commit this to film this way. That, to me, that's the essential part, right? Because taste varies. You can't predict if it's going to be a hit, a flop, whatever those mean. But saying like, I don't know, I can send consciousness through space and time, and I've never seen someone else try it. Well, now that film is essential to the sci-fi canon because it's the only one, and that's the thing I'm interested in hearing about. Is, to me, that's it. And of course, it's your first answer. It's like, comment, subscribe, share. It's all that stuff as well. But the truly, from in a literary way, not just Valentine's Day way, the romantic quality in essential is believing and trying to do something other folks haven't done. To me, again, that ambition, that audaciousness is creativity in a way that inspires folks and isn't something that we should demonize. Because I do hear folks just like, I'm going to try to do something different. Everyone's like, F you, everything's been done. You're such a no one's ever told me that before. I wish we gave people a high five for trying to swing for the fences. Bunting is so fashionable, I get it. Sometimes, man, swinging as hard as you can for that home run and striking out in all the glory is pretty hot too. I don't know.
Here.
Yeah.
So what was, to flip that back on you, what was your essential core idea?
There's a consciousness, alien quality to my film as well, without spoiling anything. But I went in with, not surprising to hear me ramble, that I wanted to be audacious in every aspect of the film, and the film had a very tiny budget, like all little films, and I thought, like, how audacious would it be to make a film that, at our scale, competes with 2001: A Space Odyssey, that's trying to be as Kubrickian as possible. I was just so angry at not getting the chance to make films prior that you're just like, I'm going to try to do something that's so big that's tiny, you know? And so all the scenes in this film, except for I have like a 30-minute table scene where people are talking at a table for like 30 minutes, that's not audacious other than the length. But everything else was an attempt to show scope and scale in a way that, like, no one would expect. They're not DSLRs anymore, but mirrorless cameras, like, you know, to show a side of Los Angeles, to have we have a little bit of CG, you know, to have like an alien presence depicted with this teeny tiny budget, to have the destruction of a universe, you know, but shot this size but blown up to 4, 5, 6K. These are things that I thought I just, you know, what at my level is trying to do that, and I was like, me, and like, you know, and just hoping that people appreciate it and like it. And I said this last night in my Q&A is I just want folks to know that we really tried. We really tried. You know, that's swinging for the fences. So
Nice.
So let's talk about your two films a little more specifically now with some of this work. So one thing I'm curious, sci-fi has always reflected the anxieties of its time, right? That's what it thrives in. So what modern fear or idea are your films wrestling with?
My quick facetious answer is there's a joke early in the film, and it's in the trailer, that isn't funny anymore. And a woman asks Donald Voltman, our time traveler, "Oh yeah, what's the future like?" And he says, "Well, Prime Minister Bieber rules with an iron fist, but hey, tax cuts." And that was funny when I wrote it.
it's funny now. It's funny now, just with watery eyes. I mentioned this last night. Your film's playing tonight, so I had the pleasure of screening mine last night. So the couple of folks who saw it last night are going to hear me say this again. The anxiety of the times is not even. I'm sure this was an anxiety in 1402. You know, is about bodies and waking up on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Sunday and looking at yourself in the mirror and not being happy with what you see. And not because you just inherently don't like it. It's because the world has told you that's not the husk, the body that we love, appreciate, praise, worship the most. And I believe no matter who you are, no matter how unvain you think you are, you felt that before. And it's not just a beauty thing. It's I mentioned this last night. It's age. It could be hair. It could be color. It could be how muscular you are or not. It could be sickness, where you're here still, but the body is not keeping up with what's up here. And suddenly you wish you had a different machine to carry the consciousness around. And so I think that's what the film wrestles with. And through that, you inevitably get to something like loneliness. You inevitably get to something like, am I going to end up doing this thing alone? Because the other bodies near me are going to leave, and, you know, or maybe I'll leave and I'll still be here, though, somewhere, and still be lonely. And so that's the thing. And I don't think that's specific to today, but
It's universal.
It's amplified because of the high-powered machines in our pockets. Everyone talks about it. We all just feel slightly more disconnected. And I had no intention of trying to tackle cell phones or AI and things, but then I've had folks come up to me. It's a nice thing to say that the film does talk about, in their own way, being alone and wishing they could be near another body, just any body. And so, yeah, that's sort of what the film is wrestling with, if I can be so bold.
That leads me to want to give. So my serious answer is, it will not be as eloquent as yours, but definitely about, because we all have, there's things from our past, especially if you're like, as soon as you're older than 12, there's things that if you could go back, you wish you could change. Or you just wonder, if I'd gone down that different path, what would have happened? And it haunts us. And yeah, so Time Helmet deals with that, and I think that's a much like with yours, it's a deeper thing that I think we all deal with, regardless of the era.
And when you were putting the worlds together of your films, and you talked a little about this, like the idea of transferring the consciousness and the idea of, you know, the changing husks a little bit, what you talked last night, how do you balance, you know, world building with character development? And when you were working on these films, what came first for you? Like, what was your process like?
That's a good question.
It might have played differently if it was a dramatic script, but because at its core, Time Helmet needed to be funny. Time Helmet needed to be an opportunity for hilarious actor Peter New to run around and chew the scenery and be entertaining. And I mean, it needed a deep character core that we could get behind and be interested in. It needed a world built, but yeah. So in that one, and yeah, it's certainly not how I've approached most scripts that I've done. But in this case, it kind of started with funny scenarios, then building up the characters, and then checking out and making sure that I had a solid world foundation that would support those other things. But I will often write the other way around, build the world first. And
I specifically love hearing that answer. I'm like, probably a lot of writers are obsessed with hearing how other writers do things.
Yeah.
You're looking for like the golden key, inspiration. Sometimes you're looking for like another reason to whip yourself, and you're like, shit, I should have did it this way or that way, you know. So I especially appreciate hearing how you built it, because I think every time I'm doing it, I feel like I'm reinventing the wheel for myself, which is a pain in the ass. And I'm genuinely curious, because most folks at the festival I've come across seem to also be filmmakers and writers or poets. So I'm genuinely curious. I don't mean it as a joke. Like, after this, I'm curious how everyone else builds so I can steal your processes. But typically, I'm trying to do theater on film. And again, swinging for the fences. So that means I usually start with characters. And then the like ridiculous scenarios show up after, and so I'm usually building what I hope to be real people as best as I can. I can only take that so far. I truly believe in acting. Like, no one's there to watch me. No one's there. No one's gonna watch this film because I just wrote this incredible thing. They're there to see the actors bring this to life, and anyone who's worked with actors, like, it's real for them. You know, and that's not method acting, that's acting.
Yeah.
And so that's why I try to, the best thing I can do for an actor, the best thing I can do for the film is just try to be the best writer I can be. After that, I've got to trust, support, help guide a little bit, but so I start in that direction as actors and things, and then the shenanigans come after, and you know, sometimes maybe that's why they're not always as connected as they should be. But I usually get that people like the characters well enough. So, and if I'm doing that wrong, I'd really like.
Well, there is no wrong way.
Tell me how to do it the right way.
Certainly, yeah. There is no wrong way, as long as you get there in the end. And where you start, in a lot of ways, is less important in my mind than making sure you dot your I's and cross your T's and develop all of the aspects. Like, it doesn't matter if you came up with the world first or the characters first or a few fun jokes first. You've got to put the time in on building all of them and making sure they all really work. You've got to build that engine and make sure that it's a solid engine that will keep that car running for 2 hours. But it is funny, because certainly, because my partner also writes, and her process is very different from mine, so it's been interesting for me giving her notes and getting notes from her on the stuff we write. Because on pretty much everything I come up with, usually it always starts with moments. Like, oh, wouldn't that be a cool scene? If I saw that in a movie, wouldn't I be like, oh, yeah, or ha 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 ha, or whatever. Like, and I'll just kind of like have a handful of just cool moments, and then start to figure out what characters would I need to thread those to, what story would thread those together, and kind of build up around those moments. Not to shake around the cards that no one can see from here, but like, there's a fight between Donald Voltman and Officer Slaughter of the Time Police, and that was like one of my early ideas of just this showdown between this big guy who has no idea how to fight and a 12-year-old girl with the mind of a 40-year-old brutal cop. And what would that fight look like? What are the jokes that would happen? Him standing up in a restaurant, telling everyone he's from the future and buying them all free drinks. So little things like that just kind of stitched it all together.
It sounds like it's got a lot of life to it. I don't just mean the film, but like the process. That it's just like this exciting discovery and like joy from moving from one moment to the next. And then are you like stitching them together? Once you have it, you're like, you just figure out how to weave them together, or is there a different
Yeah, I'll kind of, yeah, so I'll start with those ideas, then figure out the general story idea and characters, and then I will just build myself a beat sheet where I'm just like, I'll just literally on a piece of paper, I'll be like, okay, well, here's how it has to open, because I've got to you have to establish certain things. Now, okay, so that'll be my opening scene, and then I know halfway through the movie this has to happen, and this is how it's going to end, and well, if I'm going to get from that midpoint to that ending, this has to happen and this has to happen, and I'll just put them in the order, filling in these blank spaces until it all kind of fills in the page, and I can track it as like, okay, yeah, that hits every piece of information the audience is going to need to see. And then I'll also be like, okay, well, I need to build up this character more. Where's their crisis going to be? Probably in around here, and throw out that old idea for a scene and build in a new one that's going to focus on them. And just kind of like iterating from there, just trying to strengthen it all, and then go to script. And I don't know if any of that made sense, but...
Yes, thank you. I'm stealing it all. Thank you. Thank you.
But I am a bit of, and this is part of my work as a film editor as well. Structure I take very, very seriously, and that's why kind of having essentially this map that I can look at visually, and like, because you can get a sense of your pace too when you're putting in. It's like, oh, okay, I only have 2 things happening in the back half of Act 2. Well, that's not right. That's not pacing right. Where have I gone wrong here? So you can really kind of see how it's all clicking together. But structure is really important in film. You can get away with loose structures in a novel, but you cannot get away with it in a film. It's very unfair.
I agree.
And so when putting this together, right, and coming up with these scenes, like the one where you have the mind of a 40-year-old and a 13-year-old getting ready to have this fight, having a 30-minute conversation at a table, which is a very theatrical approach. As you're putting these together, I'm curious to know, what would you say was the most creative restriction you had, either due to budgeting or resources or locations, and yet how did that restriction make your film better?
I think every indie filmmaker has a version of the same response, and then we try to get creative and give you all something different, but the answer is resources, which is a longer word for money,
Yes.
which is euphemism for people, which is a metaphor for life, and so on and so on and so on. It's that. It really is that. I really wish I could give you all a much more poetic response, but it's trying to make something of quality, swing for the fences, and knowing that you don't have the time or the budget, running out of strong enough English to thank the people around you for the help, knowing that English is a flawed language, and you're like, I wish there was a stronger word to express how much I appreciate this, and that's hard on set. I don't think filmmakers talk enough about the guilt you feel on a production. I'm sure there are folks who are just like, they think they're making an Oscar-winning project, and they're just like, you're lucky to be here. The rest of us just feel awful. Because, it's 2 in the morning. We started at 2 in the afternoon, and, we still have 4 pages left. And so But
and you can't reward the people the way you could with a big budget.
right, right. And they're still giving you that smile, and they're just like, no, we're happy to be here. We believe, we love you. And then it's worse. You want you want them to tell you to shut the hell up and hurry it up. But so these are the restrictions. But of course, and again, I'm just standing on the shoulders of giants, is that it always leads then to creative solutions, because we have 4 pages left. Everyone's tired. We're out of money. And we've got to figure out a way to tell the same story in a short amount of time, or with no resources, things like that. It's a cliche response, but it's cliche because it's true. That's what happened. And out of our 16 days of shooting for the first set of production days, that probably happened 14 of the days. You know, as much as we plan, you get to the end and you realize you're like, the end, as in, you know, you're at 10 hours and you're like, shit, we've got so much more to do. And you bring your tiny crew of 4 into a corner and you're like, what are we gonna do? Okay, like maybe this, maybe that, maybe this, maybe that. And every time I look at the film now, I'm like, that's one of the coolest parts of the film now. Everyone's really into that portion of the movie, and I'm like, we just made that up in the bathroom. Like, we just kept the actors in the living room, and I just went like this, oh God, what are we going to do? And then it's like, let's cut this, let's move that, let's put the camera here, and now every time everyone sees that scene, it's one of the coolest parts of the movie. So
Nice.
I don't know. So basically, yeah, it's like cortisol poisoning breeds incredible creativity, you know, so there you go.
Oh, it's funny because the Time Helmet wasn't the movie where I had it happen enough and in ways that made for good anecdotes, but I've certainly, like, I've had my share of short films where it was like sudden losses of a location or a visual effects artist suddenly like dropping out on the day we needed to get stuff done. I have had things suddenly go sideways and turn into wonderful things that made the films better. That did not happen on Time Helmet, at least not in a way that makes for a good anecdote. But yeah, certainly like on a technical level, this kind of grows out of all this. Like you've got to figure out all the ways that you can leverage your limitations and figure out what things you don't have as limitations. If you're making an indie film with no money, there is no limitation on how much time you can put into pre-production. You can put all the time and thought in the world into planning it and finding a good team that will help you make it. And you probably don't have a limitation on post, though you got to be careful about that because 5 years was a long time. But you can get that extra work, every extra minute in pre-production and post-production that you can put into the film is going to make it better. But all that said, particularly with the pre-production, you've got to be careful. Don't get married to everything because things are going to go sideways. And if you aren't flexible, if you can't make up new things on the fly, your movie is not going to make it. Because particularly like in the indie world, it's like, yeah, things are going to go south and it's going to happen a lot. And you've got to be able to run with it and change a scene because an actor doesn't like it or the prop didn't show up or like whatever. So that flexibility is key. If you can, and it's really, really hard, but if you can find ways to get more time to shoot, time will make so much difference. If you don't have money, find as much time as you can. And we got 31 days to shoot Time Helmet. And I am so grateful that we were able to do that. And it was still tough. But particularly coming back in the back half of like 6 months into COVID, we were interrupted by COVID with the shoot and paused for 6 months and came back. And when we came back with all the other stresses and things, we decided, and I don't remember, it might have been Laurie's idea, shooting 8-hour days. Because usually in film, 10-hour days are the minimum. Often it's way, way longer. But yeah, Laurie was like, shoot it in 8-hour days if we can. And we only went over twice by half an hour and an hour. But it makes it so much better when your crew is, when you can't compensate them the way you can on a Hollywood production. If they get to go home at a reasonable hour, they will show up the next day for you and bring their A game.
Feed them well.
Yes,
Feed them
yes, that is a well-known rule in film, is that you've got to feed people well. Treat your people well and feed them.
So we all need to reach out to every scientist to make these helmets, time helmets, so that people can just keep coming back to give more shooting days. So if you don't finish, we're going to go back. Or if I'm too tired, give me the new body to go back and redo what I need to do.
Absolutely.
I'm very impressed that you managed to pull off your film in 13 shoot days. That is...
16, actually, then there's some pickup days, but
That's still...
crew of 4 people, so it was tough.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So the last question I'm going to ask you before we open it up to see if anyone in the audience has any questions. Because we were talking about the, Aaron, you said, money, 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 and having those things. I'm just curious. I love to ask. If you had unlimited resources tomorrow thrown your way, Mike's already got his answer. Would you make this same kind of sci-fi film in the realm that you did, or would you go in a different direction?
Much to my manager's chagrin, I'd make the same movie. So most of my films are adults talking at tables. I'm a noir kid, and I sort of stumbled into sci-fi. So most of my references are well-dressed people speaking with this beautiful transatlantic sort of cadence, and that's how I like everything. So even if I had $100 million, it would just be fancier suits and dresses while people smoke a lot of cigarettes and talk at tables and bars. And
Nice.
so I don't expect to be winning the box office anytime soon, but I'd be making the same movies.
That's fair.
Nice.
All right.
Well, for me, it's, sci-fi, genre stuff in general has always been my bag, and I can't deny I have far more than one film idea that could only be done for a, minimum 60 million budget. Action sci-fi is not a cheap genre. I don't think I'll ever get the opportunity. I would like to, but yes, so would it be different? There are certainly bigger stories that I have to tell, but at its core, it would still be like the kinds of movies I grew up with, that kind of fun 80s style action adventure sci-fi stuff. So yeah, similar but very different, but the same.
There you go. All right. So we're going to open up if anyone here has any questions for our 2 panelists.
So the next one, My Dinner with Mara? Or is that...
I like that title.
Because it works.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We're just a very good kind of thing going on there. So.
Thank you very much. The next one is a lot of well-dressed people talking for a long time. So it really is.
Yes.
Well, I was wondering, spoiler alert, but what scene you were referencing that you discovered in the bathroom during
What scene did you discover while in the bathroom?
All the scenes are. This spoils the film a little bit, but there's a robbery in the movie that was a million different setups in my mind. I was like, you know how it is. You know how it is. Like the camera's over there, then it's over there, and it's just this incredible thing. And the next thing you know, because rented that space, got a permit and everything, and it's like we've got like an hour left, and we haven't done any of that scene, and so. Because of modern technology and affordable gimbals and things like that, we realized we could do, it's the only one in the film, we could do like a fake oneer.
Oh, nice.
And so, which is every filmmaker's dream, which is just like one shot. I'm sure everyone here knows it, so I apologize if I'm splaining, but it's a shot where the camera can just move along with the actors. There's no edits, there's no cuts. And so it's I think an impressively long oneer where the robbery happens and she discovers the aftermath of the robbery, and it hits her in the mind what's going on. That was going to be 10 different shots, and it's actually technically two oneers stitched together secretly. There's like when the camera whips, you sort of can tie it together. But that is everyone's favorite scene. There's a car that speeds away, and there's blood and all this other stuff. But man, that was going to be 7 more hours. That in the bathroom right before I cried, we decided to make it one shot, and so.
Nice.
It's such a significant part of the story that it being different and unique in how it's shot does exemplify exactly what it's supposed to be about in a way that maybe it being covered other ways wouldn't.
I love you. You're my favorite person. Thank you. That's again. There's moments where people fantasize when you make a film that you get to say after you've made a movie, right? And that's one of the things you talked about. Even it's like there's this like cliche where you can talk about how the limitations bred something else, but one of them is being able to say, like, but now it truly captures the spirit of the scene, knowing damn well you didn't think that in the beginning. You were just, like, you shoot it and you're just like, this is just going to be awful, and then you make it work in post, and then everyone's like, we love it, and you're like, of course, this was the plan. But if you're me, you sort of admit, you're like, we stumbled backwards, blindfolded, with one shoe on into this, and we're just so happy it worked. Kudos to the team, and lots of cosmic luck.
Nice. I do have to say, as a film editor, because as much as oneers are the love of every director, they are the nightmare scenario in the editing room.
I'm aware of this.
So I'm going to ask you a related question. What one flub or bad thing that you did not like did you have to keep in the film because of the oneer? Because there's always something. There was a giant oneer I edited Dead Rising Watchtower, and there was a big oneer in a fight, and there were like two things that are like kind of flubs that we had to keep because that was the best take. But,
I love that you bring up editing because the oneer exists, and the protagonist relives the oneer right after. And my initial intention was to then show other angles of that, so it wasn't like the same scene again, but since it's a oneer, it's the same scene again. And you're just like, you just hope everyone enjoys watching it again, literally, in reverse, but like again, in the exact same order, because it's the only way we shot it, there's no other ways. But yeah, in my intention, again, originally it's like the camera would be over there, it would be over here, it'd be like this Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan sort of like, why is the camera behind the pot on the stove in such a unique angle? Oh my God, that's why. That makes so much sense. And that never happened. And you forced everyone to watch your damn thing again. So that.
With repetition in the visual poetry, though, unless you're sending your film. I'm like, no, it's perfect.
You're hired. You are hired.
Meta marketing.
Yeah. Truly, I'm not just stealing your answer. One of the ways that I was allowed, I edited the film as well. So that's why you're like, I edited, and I was like, oh God, I know what it's like. I'm so sorry. Like, we can have a circle or like a support group after. But repetition is a part of the movie. So then, you're editing it, and you're like, it works because this is a part of the fabric and DNA of the film. But again, I can't go in saying, I wouldn't sleep at night if I just was like, that's how I planned it.
Sure.
You're just like...
Conduit.
Right, it's just I love that. That's something I truly believe in. The best I can do is be open to the ideas. I'm not that woo-woo, but the ideas are bigger than we are, and you just have to try to capture them as best as possible, and so they came from somewhere else, and it worked out, and I'm the lucky recipient, and you all are the kind sitter-throughers of that. So.
Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, from a filmmaker's perspective, I was wondering, did you ever have to deal with a rude or a bad audience at the showing, and if yes, how to deal with stuff like that?
Did you ever have to deal with a rude or bad audience at a screening, and how did you deal with it? Interesting.
not really.
Lucky you. Lucky you.
Wait for tonight.
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't seen your film yet, so I'm just kidding.
I've been lucky enough that anybody who hated my things in person didn't say anything.
Wait to tell you online later.
I was the closest I could come is at Worldcon. We screened at Worldcon this year in Seattle, but there were 3 shorts that ran before our film that I don't think a lot of the audience cared for very much, and like and one of them was really, really long. The last one was it felt interminable, and I watched like a noticeable percentage of the audience over that last film gradually just get up and leave, and I was like, oh man, I swear my movie's funny, but you'll enjoy it. They're gone.
I can't blame anyone else. I can't blame Shorts before mine for but we premiered at South by Southwest last year, and the film has a bunch of pseudoscience in it. And again, this is being the Boston Sci-Fi Film Festival. We know it. There's enough science in your movie to make it believable, to ignite the imagination. But damn it, like, don't poke holes in the science, because I'm not a scientist. But I had someone at the third screening pull me aside for 30 minutes. He, no offense if anyone is, but Russian, and had a cowboy hat on, and pulled me aside and said, "Can I tell you where you missed the mark on your science?" And because I'm always at the beginning of my rope, never at the end. I just have so much rope left. I sat through that, and I just a glutton for punishment. And 30 minutes, he decided to teach, and turns out, actually, he's an astrophysicist, and decided to school me on where I screwed up. And I wanted so badly to just be like, dude, like, you know, like, I'm a filmmaker at best.
Yeah.
But that was tough because he was not happy with me and the film. And
Man.
and at some point it just gets kind of funny, right? Like 15 minutes in, you're just like, you know, let's just see how long this can go.
That could be the next movie.
That could
the
be,
next movie.
yeah. And he was
Oh,
like,
man.
"You want to do a 30-minute table scene, sir, with the Russian accent?" So in the hallway of the theater, 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And like the folks who came with me were looking at me like, "Should we save you?" And I'm just like, "No, just let this
Wow.
go." That was tough. He was not happy.
Oh man, it's funny. I think that's a good example of how you can only take these things so seriously, because it doesn't matter what genre you're working in as a creative. I mean, in general, as a writer, someone is going to know more about it than you can ever know, and they will say you got it wrong. I love when it first came out. I was just in love with the movie Gattaca, and a friend of mine just hated it. He's a geneticist, and so it's like all he could see in the film were all the things they got wrong about the science. And it doesn't matter what story you're telling, someone is going to be able to pick it apart because it's not accurate.
Yeah.
So you just can't sweat it.
Yeah.
Do the best you can for your general audience, but you're never going to make the experts happy.
Yep.
So when we talk, just to close this out, and we're going to bring this full circle, right? Because we love in science fiction to close a loop, right? We have to close the loop. And going back to this theme of, cutting through the noise and any of the naysayers we may see, and, all the different pockets, what are you ultimately hoping people take away when they watch your film?
Think about it.
As you asked me this in the interview last night. I want people to have fun. I mean, that's why I made my first feature a comedy as well as sci-fi. I wanted it to be a fun movie. I wanted the people making it with me to have fun. If you just have a good time, escape from reality for a little bit. There's a little bit of a message in the movie, but we don't lay it on very heavy. But yeah, have a laugh. Go on a journey.
There you go.
My film's not a comedy, but I actually want the same thing. Watching a film is like having a meal to me. It really is. And you don't usually want to eat the same thing every single day. And we have the latitude for eating to appreciate different meals, but we don't have it with movies. They are a lot more expensive than the average meal. So you kind of hope that folks are willing to. That's what I want them to take away, is willing to just experience something else.
Yeah.
You know, then they can get everywhere else, and know that usually the filmmakers are trying hard, especially at this level, to do the best they can, to entertain, to show you something cool, to show you something they love, and you want someone to be like, all right, you know, even if that wasn't for me, I appreciate a different meal. And that's what you want folks to take from it, is, you know, give it a chance.
Nice. Well, Aaron, Mike, thank you so much. For everyone,
Thank you.
Time Helmet, the Infinite Husk, find the trailers, comment on them, don't just like them, move the algorithms forward.
Yes,
I have been
please.
Cinephile Mike. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of Boston Sci-Fi.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
My